Carla Atherton, Director of the Healthy Family Formula and host and producer of the Children's Health Summit 4. In response to the rapid rise in conditions such as autism, cancer, ADHD, GI distress, anxiety, depression, asthma, skin conditions, learning disabilities, and autoimmunity, the topic of this year's summit is preventing and reversing childhood chronic illness. And today I'm very excited to be interviewed by one of my brilliant Healthy Family Formula family health coach trainees, Kirstie Gran. And before I get Kirstie to introduce herself, I have to say I'm so excited for this interview because we have the most fantastic conversations about so many things that we're going to be talking about today. And Kirstie is like the one of the biggest hearts I've ever met. And I was able to meet her in person when I was in England a few months ago, and it's just like, you get in her presence and you want to get better. You just feel better just being around her. She's an amazing mom, amazing practitioner. So I'm just going to give you the floor, Kirstie, to introduce yourself and take it away with the interview.
Oh, thank you so much, Carla, for the introduction. That is so lovely. And thank you so much for being here today and us being able to talk about this really important aspect of health, because I believe these are the fundamental building blocks of children's happiness, health and well-being. So they're so important for reversing childhood chronic illness and preventing it. So thank you so much, Carla. Yeah, I'm a mama of 2 young children who certainly have taught me a lot about creativity and play. I was really lucky on my health journey that I found the natural holistic route to healing, and I haven't looked back since. I'm really passionate about conscious living, people being authentic in themselves, having self-love, and being able to really look after this amazing planet that is our second home. Children, my children have certainly taught me so much to do, in all aspects of creativity and play, how important it is to be yourself in the world, and for them, I really want to be able to go out there and sort of shine a light on all of these aspects so that people understand really the importance of, nature, Mother Earth, and all that comes with that. So thank you so much for having this, to bring me on to talk about this. So yeah, my journey certainly has involved a lot of nature, certainly dancing, meditation, mindfulness, adventure and fun. That's all of those really helped me through my journey of illness when I was younger, and helped me come out the other side. So it's such an important part of children's health, and for my children, getting them out there. So yeah, it's really, really important. And I'm also really passionate about helping women preconception, pregnancy and post-birth to support them in their such an important role of motherhood, and to be able to understand all the fundamental aspects of it that help their baby's development, help them grow, and really help mums have the support that they need to have. So thank you, Carla.
Yes, thank you for doing this, Kirstie. You're the perfect person to be interviewing me about this stuff.
I am really passionate about Mother Earth and nature and being outside. So yeah, I love it. Yes. I love it. Thank you. So let's talk about the mental and emotional aspects of health that relate to spirit and fulfillment. So what is the importance of nature, creativity, meditation and play? Okay,
I love it. I think that this is one of the most fun aspects of health and healing, I think. This is what life really is. So, we could talk about, we need to eat well, we need to do this, as if they're all sort of like chores and things we need to do to stay healthy and maintain this body and keep going. But why do we keep going? Why are we, why do we need to, feel good? What's the point? What's the purpose, right? So we get right back down to like this whole experience of being human. Our children, what are they living for? So I think that these parts of the human existence, being in nature, being able to be creative, meditate, which is really just as slowing down to enjoy all of those things, to be in the now really is what meditation is. And playing, fun, expression, joy, life, experience, those things are what make us happy. Make this existence worth living, right? So I think that they are of utmost importance. And I think that we need to pay attention to all four of those things and many more. I mean, really, there's actually more to that. That when we're not only in a healing space, like where we want to actually get better if we're already not really well, and also if we want to maintain health, if we want to not get sick in the first place, if we just want to have like step up the level from being kind of like better, get or sick, and then you get better, and then you're actually really full on living life. So that's why I think that those things are of utmost importance.
Yeah, oh, totally agree. So let's talk about nature. So we've heard that being in nature is really good for us, but can you tell us exactly what is so good about it and why it's important for our children's health?
Oh, so many reasons. Okay, so nature, for one thing, like it's sort of what I was just talking about a little bit, that nature actually, when we're out in nature, like we're supposed to be in nature. We're animals, right? I mean, these houses, these buildings, these sidewalks, these, institutions, like all of these things that we live within are actually not really the natural habitat for a human being. Like really, we're like supposed to be outside, and there's good reason for that because we interact with everything that's out in our environment, right? So we interact with the air, we breathe this air that is life-giving. We, forage and find our food, so we're in the dirt and the earth, and we actually, interact with the microbes on those plants and in that soil and on other animals, right? So those things, as we know, and we've been talking a lot about in this summit, is those things are very important for our human existence, right? Our immune system, our mental health, our, a digestive system. So did I say that? Digestive system? I think I said that twice. No, I said immune system and digestive. Haha, I didn't. But anyway, so I mean, they're very important for all of those things. And well, essential, not just important, but essential. And so we're interacting with our environment in a natural way. It's not forced. It's not, false. It's not human made. It's really what the stuff of life really is. We're out in the sun, and the sun gives us vitamin D. We're not like, if we're out there in that on the earth, we're not needing to have like, supplement with vitamin D, right? Like we get it just naturally. It's easy. So being out in nature is actually an easy way to gain health, to be in an environment that is conducive to health, right? So, we go, I mean, I remember with my kids, we used to spend so much time on the riverbank, and I really miss that because it's not the same when they got a little older and one's working here, one's going here, one's, like everybody's sort of scattered. But in those early years, we spent hours on the riverbank. Like even when we lived in the city, we would go to, because our city has many, many parks and access to the river. And so we would just be like literally like 6 hours later, we'd go, should we go? And maybe we'll go get something to picnic on and then we'll come back, so, I mean, being in the grass, grounding, discharging all of that man-made electrical energy and being able to discharge, into the earth, so the ions are different, in nature than they are inside a home. Like everything is conducive to human health when you're outside, like except for if there's a blizzard and there, something like that, you don't, I mean, there are elements to nature that are dangerous to us, right? Of course. But, if you look at the broad picture, why being in nature physically, mentally, emotionally are very beneficial for people. That's why, because when you're out there, you are, in that physical environment that will make you and your children healthy, but also mentally healthy too, right? Because we're and emotionally so, because we feel better when everything's working in the body and you're getting what you need and everything's easy, and it actually makes you more mindful. And I'm going to come back to that in a second, but you're mindful of yourself, you're mindful of your environment, the world around you. You stop, smell the roses, less stress, always. Like, unless you're getting chased by a bear, right? Like, that's what the stress response is for. Tiger, lion, bear, everybody says the same old thing. You're going to hear from everybody, but it's true. Like, those things are can be stressful in nature. You could be walking through like the bush, which I really hate when you start like walking through all the cobwebs and you're getting bitten by mosquitoes and you're freaking out, but get me out of here. Like there's like, some of that can happen, but then you get to that safe space, and that's very limited, that time of being stressed out where you have to like, make sure you survive. But for the most part, being out there is ease. It's less stress. And it really, like, if people talk about forest bathing, so when you go out in the forest and you just like be in the forest, like you just like, I dare you. I mean, I actually challenge anyone to find one person that says, no big deal. I didn't feel anything. I was still really stressed out when I was sitting under that tree. Bull. Everybody will feel better. Like you go out there and you're just like, oh, I didn't know I needed it. It's almost like having a radio blaring, or not blaring, but a radio kind of like in the background all the time, and then you turn it off, and that relief, right? Like I didn't even know there was noise until there wasn't, and then you hear the birds, and then you hear the little things scurrying in the under the trees, and you hear the like the bee sort of buzz by, and you see it actually land on that flower, right? All those things you missed before you were able to be still. I mean, I think that, being in nature is actually a form of meditation for sure. And again, we'll come back to that. Okay, so I wanted to come back to this whole sense of awareness as well. So we're more aware of our bodies when we're more aware of our environments. And we're in an environment that allows us the space to be aware, right? So we're out there, we're in nature, we're like, yeah, I just sort of feel this, and I'm gonna deal with that, or I'm a little uncomfortable. I feel like laying down. I'm just gonna lay in the grass. I want to just look up into the clouds, or those things you will notice that you will never ever notice sitting in a house, or like working away, and just like you need to be out. Like when we're out in nature, we have access to those parts of ourselves, and so and then when we are actually observing ourselves and our environment, we have more respect for our environment as well. So we have these children who are growing up in nature, respecting nature, noticing nature, like decide, hey, what are those reindeer tracks, or what is this bear poop, mom? Like what kind of poop is this? What do you think that animal ate? Right? So they have this sense of reverence for their environment, for themselves, for their own life, for other life, for what it takes to actually live. They understand, like food better, what nature provides for us, where their food comes from, where, the sun makes me feel good. All these things that are sort of natural that kids will just do. They will gain this broader sense of respect for their environment. So what do we do when we love something? We take care of it. So then we have this whole, these children who are growing up actually caring about recycling. You don't have to say, you got it. Like they're like, hey, I think that I'm not going to throw that garbage out. I'm not going to waste my food. I'm not going to, like destroy things and leave, a mess for everybody else. Like I'm not going to, overuse plastics and, like pollute and, dump things here. And, so we have these socially, environmentally conscious people as well who are connected to nature, because if you love something, you'll take care of it. You'll make sure, and it's not just like selfish thing where I hear a lot of people talking about, when we want to take care of nature because we need to make sure that we have a planet to live on. Well, I guess so, but that's a little more selfish than really than thinking like we need to take care of nature because we love it, because this planet, we are grateful for it, because it enables us to have life. But we have to be respectful of nature because we're part of nature. And if we don't respect nature, we don't respect ourselves, right? So I could go on and on and on about nature, but those are some really big points for me that make me think, nature is so essential. And, also I want to say too that Richard Louv, he's written several books about nature, and it was I have it on my shelf here. It was one of my favorite books years and years and years ago before we built on our acreage. And, a friend introduced me to this book, and it was so wonderful because it was talking about this disconnect we have from nature, but also the need to reconnect. So Richard Louv is a really good read if you're really interested in this stuff. And he calls that, being in nature, vitamin N. So that's what vitamin N is, right? Vitamin nature, right? We need a daily dose of vitamin N.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree with you, Carla. I remember I spent my childhood in the woods, climbing trees, falling in stinging nettles, walking the dog around the fields, going on bike rides all day and coming back when it was getting dark. In the evenings with campfires, seeing the stars at night and the moon. Absolutely. For me, it fueled my love for our amazing planet, because, when you see the beauty of it and you see how important it is to all of us, you want to look after it. Like you said, there's no reason not to want to protect it and look after it because of everything it's giving us. So yeah, absolutely agree with that. There's, we are we're all so connected, we're a part of nature and it's a part of us. So when we realize that as we grow up, if we harm nature, we're harming ourselves, then there's just no reason whatsoever to want to do that. So I think certainly next generations is so aware of the importance of sustainability and looking after our planet, and that's the best thing that they can have. So by being out in nature more, connecting to it, feeling that innate sense of, wow, this is where I'm meant to be, this is who I am, is just so important. I'm the same. I need nature. For me, I absolutely need it, my daily dose. Otherwise, I certainly don't feel as good. Without it. So, that's right. And it's the same as the sort of nature deficit disorder, or an epidemic dislocation from the outdoors that you were talking about. So, certainly something there that children need to, we need to sort of be
and I'm glad you mentioned that whole idea of like nature deficit disorder, because again, that's a coin, or it was coined by Richard Louv, and it's so true, because I guess we always want to put a disorder onto something, a name for an ailment, but it does make sense if you kind of look at it in this other way, that if we don't have it, it's there can be like consequences to that, ill health consequences that can be considered like a disorder, there's something wrong here. Whether you're missing that vitamin N, it's an essential vitamin. It's essential to life, is to be part of nature. And so if you're missing that, then you can have certain symptoms, right? And that could be anything, because I think if you're missing that vitamin N, you could be, ill in all kinds of ways. So, so nature deficit disorder is definitely something to think about when you think about kids that are not in nature, thinking about ways to, improve their health, and like, hey, maybe we should get out more and see what that does. And literally, if you got that kid out, you were saying walking dogs, or, like going to the park if you live in an urban area and you don't have a yard or something, like getting off that concrete and going into somewhere that has nature, trees, whatever, maybe making like trips out just outside the cities, the outskirts of the city, and going somewhere that you can be in nature. I think there's so many things that resolve, like family strife, physical issues, emotional health, so many things resolve just by that one thing alone. I remember telling one mom, I said, are you getting outside, like, how are you doing for de-stressing? And I live really near a beach, and I'm like, you need to go there every day, because just for you're living by the beach, for goodness sake, get out there, put your feet in the sand, just start the day for 5 minutes like that, or walk the kids through the park to school, that kind of thing. Is you can, anywhere you are, there's something you can do to connect with nature.
Absolutely. And it's free.
Love that.
It is. It's probably the most powerful thing we can do, and it's free.
Yeah.
And you touched briefly on sort of negative ions and positive ions. Would you like to say any more about what they are?
Well, not necessarily, because I'm not like, I do want to just talk about that for just a moment, but I don't have a lot to say because I'm not the biggest science person on this. But so there's a difference between negative and positive ions. and one's good, one's not so good. And so I believe the negative ions are the, where we really get the positive results, that which is sort of sounds like the opposite. But that's another thing that we have. It's sort of an energetic interplay with the body and the ions, right? So when you're outside in nature and you're in the air, that that the air outside, if even opening the window will actually generate more negative ions in your space. And also in the water, so you're in spring water and you're like putting your feet in the ocean, right? So those are really really healing for the body, because we're actually part of our environment. We're part of the earth, and what and the earth for us is life-giving, right? So and that's one of the reasons why. Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you. And can you explain, there's a link between nature and cortisol and blood pressure?
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah. So for sure. Coming back to that whole de-stressing, right? That's why nature's so great. De-stresses us. So, well, what is stress? And stress is actually, we feel a certain way when we're stressed, but it's because there's a biochemical reaction happening within the body. So, we have, like if we're fight or flight, like we were talking about, when you're in nature most of the time, you're kind of like in that park mode, you're good and you're just enjoying life, and you're, going about your day, foraging and, whatever you're doing, playing. But then there's also a time when there's stress, right? When there's danger, right? So there's this stress response that happens because we need to have stress to actually motivate ourselves to do something about it. We need to kick it up a notch because we need to get away. So we need to flee, we need to go, we need to fight. Okay, if we're not getting anywhere and we're back to the corner, we got to put up our dukes, or we need to, or sometimes people freeze, right? Because it's like, play dead, I'm a possum, it's not going to hurt me because I don't exist. And actually there's another aspect to this that some of these brain docs have been talking about, and that's faint, right? So not just freeze, but actually like check out, because there's such high stress that this is not even like I'm dead, but not really dead, So there's those 4 responses actually. And so what's happening there is that there's all kinds of hormonal things going on in the body, and then they actually affect blood pressure, because you need to like pump more blood to those organs, your heart is going faster, right? Like, if you're scared, your heart's beating fast, right? It's getting all that oxygen supply to your limbs so you can get away. And, and your limbic system takes over in the brain, because you're not thinking like, well, I think that maybe I'm going to plan for my day tomorrow. No. You're not doing any of that stuff. You're thinking like, get out or stay, or what am I going to do now? Like, this is like, your brain is not going, you're like, ooga booga, I got to get away. I'm going to like either whack you with a big stick or whatever. I'm going to run away. Like, these things are happening. And so these like primal, it's like they could be considered instincts, but also like mechanism, like this is supposed to happen to keep you safe and your little tribe, right? So the cortisol rises, like the neurochemicals change, so blood pressure goes up. And so we have all of these different things happening that is fine in the moment, but we don't want that to keep happening. So when you're in nature, there's like, that is regulated. That happens when it needs to, and it doesn't happen when it doesn't need to, right? So yeah, when that's basically how. But when we're in like this concrete jungle and there's constant sources of stress, and we perceive stress as stress regardless of where it comes from. So it could be like being late for a soccer game, or it could be actual danger, right? The body doesn't know the difference. So when you are, it's like, and so your body is actually having this sort of catabolic, which is like tearing down the tissue. It's having that response, or that process happen when you're late for soccer, right? Like that shouldn't be. I mean, we don't need, so, and then if that's chronically happening, it's really damaging to the system. It's highly inflammatory, and it's just setting the stage for chronic illness. So when we're in nature, again, we are regulating that central nervous system, that our brain and then body communication that is actually preparing us to fight, to flee, to freeze, or to faint, right? or you know, we are in this rest and digest stage, which is where we want to be most of the time. We want to be able to rest, digest, play, procreate, have fun, you know, like be creative. Those things happen in that state of rest and digest, in that parasympathetic state.
Absolutely. And you've touched on it. So now let's talk about creativity.
Yeah.
It would be great to understand why creativity for children is so important. So what is creativity and what does it mean for our children?
Oh, well, you know what's actually, I just sort of thought of this when you're asking that question, that some people say, I'm not creative. I'm just not a creative person. And I actually think that, like, because you're a person, there is creativity. I mean, we need,
we are creators,
right? Yeah, because otherwise we don't make anything. We don't have any innovation. We can't improvise. We can't, you know, it's rigid. I mean, creativity is what makes us individuals, I think. And so we just are creative in different ways. We have different strengths. We have different talents, different interests. You know, like, I mean, a mechanic is still creative, you know? I mean, you know, like, can still be creative, or someone who does something that doesn't seem to be, you know, like, it's an art, they're not an artist or they're not a writer, but they could be doing something else that is, you know, creative, or they haven't really fostered that part of themselves of create, because I think that a lot of this desire or space, allowing a space to be creative, gets sort of like, you know, like things get cast upon us as we get older, right? Like, kids are allowed to be creative. They're like, okay, yeah, fine, be messy, okay, fine. You know, you guys make these, you know, pictures, and we'll be like, yeah, that's nice, you know, Johnny. But, you know, as you get older, and someone will make like a painting, like me, I'm 44, and I could be like, make it this world's ugliest painting. And then nobody's saying to me like, well, that's really creative, and I'm just glad you just, you know, you expressed yourself. They're like, that's ugly, like, what, you know, like, you know. So I mean, we just sort of like take all that on, and then we cover up these creative parts of ourselves. But I think everybody has that potential and that desire to express themselves in a creative way, and in that way we grow as individuals, as people, as, you know, and we're not integrating, but we're interacting with our world and other people. I mean, I have to tell you one thing, Kirstie, I used to really dislike Facebook, like, a lot. Like, I'm like, I don't have to tell people every time I have to go pee, or or like, you know, oh, I went and scratched my butt this morning. Like, nobody wants to know this. Like, it's just dumb. But then I actually really respect and actually value and use that tool as a way of self-expression, because I'm a writer, right? So I really actually sometimes enjoy posting like little things that I write or think about, because part of myself is like being able to express that to other people and the world, and I'll have that sort of reflected back to me, right? And then see what other people are creating as well, because every time I read a book, every time I, you know, like, look at a painting that is moving to me, every time I, you know, like, see a business venture that someone has, or a product they created, or, you know, someone singing, or like singing, I love singing. Those things, it actually adds to my own experience and my own perception on the world, and then therefore my connection to other people. So I think that creativity is just like, you can lose yourself in it too. I mean, I think that we are most happy, like especially, well, all of us, but I think of our children, and they are just, when they're making sand castles, or when they're, you know, painting, or they're singing to this song, like you hear them in the bathroom singing, or they're, you know, like, all those really beautiful moments are born out of a creative moment. You know, playing the piano, right? Unless it's like someone going, you better practice your piano. Like, I mean, just playing to play, you know, just playing the piano to play. I think that we all need way, way, way more space for that in our lives. Way more space for that in our lives. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I do dancing, and I found so much that creative outlet through that is just such a part of being able to express who you are in a different way. And certainly, I think, yeah, for children, it's so important for them. And like, as you say, as the older you get, we are sort of creators. You know, we've all got that in us, and to be able to express ourselves in a certain way that resonates, you know, with us, that is the way we love to do it, is really important, I think, to help our mental well-being and our health in all ways.
Yes.
So yes, certainly. So there is a lot of benefits of creativity. So how can it help children with chronic conditions, do you think?
Yeah. Well, okay. First, I want to say, before I enter that answer or start with that answer, but I forgot a dance. Dance is huge. There's actually, we can make a huge list, but like I actually, like, speaking of Facebook, I think of your Facebook profile picture where you have the, your belly dancing picture. So that like marries two things, right? Photography, another form of expression, and also like dance. And oh man, those are just wonderful. I mean, I think everybody should dance. I'm the first one dancing. I don't drink alcohol. I don't do any of that. But I am the first person at the party dancing or karaokeing. Give me the mic. I mean, it's so fun. Yeah. It's so fun. But anyway, okay. It's fun, right? But anyway, okay. So how does help children with chronic conditions?
Yeah.
Okay, we can get really, really down the rabbit hole of treatments and supplements and testing and finding practitioners and doctors and needing help and feeling powerless, and or if you don't even feel powerless, and even if you're empowered, all of these things are really kind of heavy, and they can be very heavy. And I think that and we think creativity, like, what's the big deal of that? Because we're dealing with life and death. We're dealing with this big issue. My kid has this autoimmune problem or this like behavioral issue. And I think that creativity is something that is actually really, really important not to ever forget that, because it's part of that child's soul. And so it doesn't really, like, all that other stuff, again, like everything that we do is multifactorial, right? Like when we talk about chronic illness, like, it's not just the body, it's not just the mind, it's not just the soul, it's all of it. But I think that we cannot forget that aspect of the spirit, of creativity, of that child, who they are, how they express themselves, and really making sure that there's a lot of space to do that, right? Like, all the other stuff is fringe, right? Like, we do supplement on the edges of our day. We do, preparing for meals on the edges of our day. Like, we prepare them and we use creativity. We're creative in what we do and how we make these things happen. But some of these things, we do testing, like on this day at this time, but then we leave and we go and hang out on the riverbank and we make a sandcastle, right? Like, so that's the stuff of life, and all the other stuff is very important, but it isn't the life, right? So it's like being sort of blinded by this really hard, it can be hard, it can be daunting task of, preventing, reversing, keeping our kids health, safe, or all that kind of stuff. But I think that creativity needs to be like huge. Not only creativity, but nature, play, was the other thing we were talking about, another thing, meditation. Those things are like, those are the things that are like the stuff of life, but everything else sort of just gets woven within it, because this is the most important.
Yeah. I truly believe that as well. There's, it brings that, it feeds the spirit, doesn't it? It nurtures the spirit of who we are inside. So absolutely. So now should we talk about play? Play is so important to optimal child development, that it's been recognised by the United Nations High Commission for Human Rights as a right of every child. So how is brain development in children advanced by play? How is their brain development advanced?
I think that was you who told me that, right? That it's been recognized by the United Nations High Commission for Human Rights that it is a right. It's a right for children to play, and rightly so. I think that that's huge, and I think that I'll start with the problem. I don't always want to start with the problem, but we don't give ourselves or our children enough time to play, like space. Again, it's sort of like it's like in the same category as creativity, because play can be very creative. Play is also just like fun, really, like the goal of play. What's the goal of play? It's a practice, right? So you're practicing life and play sometimes as well. You're playing at doing this, you're playing at doing this, and then you're actually practicing for when you actually need to use that, when something occurs and you need to use that specific skill or the thing that you develop, this a strategy or a way of going about something. It's a way of figuring out how you do things in the world. So I think that play is actually really important for children's development. It's not only just enjoyable and it's fun and it's just like it's de-stressing and it's connecting people, but it's also just like it's also really essential for human development too, the child's development. So again, like I was saying, you practice things, you learn how to do things, you make mistakes, you're allowed to make mistakes when you're playing, okay? And imagination, right? So that's like kind of the same along the same lines as creativity and play. And you are again given the space to be imaginative, to be innovative. And those people who are making things like, that are working for Microsoft and who are working, for, Apple computers and who are making, jet planes and, rockets and figuring out how to get to the moon. And, those people, they have innovation. And so they need to be able to play in their work. They need to be able to experiment and imagine and dream and desire and like have goals but change them and be like flexible and like just because if you're playing you fall off something, I mean metaphorically, it's sort of like the same metaphorical, like if you fall off, you kind of go whoops, and you're not sure how you were going to fall, and you get on a different way, and you do something different when you get back. So this is what kids are doing, is they're developing their brains in such a way that they have all of these things, these attributes that are actually really important. Like we don't really, innovation, I think these attributes, these traits are much more important than being, I think discipline is important too, but not disciplined. Disciplined as far as like following everything that other people say. I would say more like having the discipline to follow what you want to, what outcome you need to have, right? And that's like more like a perseverance, and but like to be obedient. I don't value obedience. I value innovation. I value like kids who are thinking, creative, playful. They're like gonna do great things in their lives. And I don't mean they have to be that rocket scientist, but I mean great things for them that matter to them. Yeah. And so and those people who are doing things that matter to them, and they care about what they do and they enjoy what they do, they don't have to be obedient. We don't need that. They automatically want to connect. They are connected. They just are. It's not anything that you have to force. So play, I could go on and on and on about play, but it is so important for like children's development that it's like right up there, way before any sort of like obedience and even politeness. It's good to be polite, but I think like, to be creative and playful, I think are much higher on my list for kids, for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think play is, connecting when developmental play, when you're, mamas and fathers and their children, you're on the floor and children can climb on you and understand, they kind of get to be gentle when they're playing, and they understand the sort of rules around that play. It's really important for their development and their bonding and their connection and, all of that side of it as well. For sure, that's a really important part. Sort of parents might think that we might be talking about, computers or video games, playing on those sort of in this instance, but what do you think about those?
Well, I think they're a different category of play. So it's like playing. So playing can mean like this whole thing we were just talking about, this experience, but it can also be something that you just kind of like do. So you're actually, going through the motions of playing something. Like, so I don't consider video games that whole, like a beautiful developmental experience, because I think that it's not actually an experience that child is having in real life, right? Like I talk about it as being dots on a screen. So, it's like, this thing doesn't exist in reality, so it's a little bit in a different category. So, I understand people like to do, and like lots of kids like to play video games as a form of entertainment, but I also think entertainment is not play either, because it's like it's doing something because you want to fill up your time, right? Or sometimes people like into entertainment too, for like evoking certain feelings, or I just feel like sitting here and I want to listen to somebody else's story. So I'm going to listen to a book on tape, or I'm going to, read a book. Books are actually elevated entertainment. I don't think they're entertainment either. I think they're actually like a tool and an experience in and of themselves. But I want to watch a movie. Like I've watched many good movies. So I mean, there's definitely time and place, and sometimes it's fun to watch a TV series. I'm not dogging on any of that. But what I'm saying is that video games, like, when you're gaming, and they are really, I think they take away from that child's space to play. Actually, I think that it's like there's less time to actually do the real stuff, get outside and play, and, or play dress up in the basement with the other kids, or, like go and actually be in a play, go act, acting and being, I mean, not everybody's outgoing like that, but, like things like that are actually life, in real life. So I just feel like it's not in that same category. It's more in the category of entertainment. And I think that people really need to be, like, me as a parent, I'm very cognizant about, the amount of time that's spent doing those sorts of activities, because they can actually steal time, steal energy, steal health. And we'll get into that a lot more actually in the summit too. We talk about this a little bit more. But yeah, I think that that's one thing that can be, entertainment, but, with like, a little bit, and with the, take it like, really pay attention to how much time is spent doing a passive form of like something that we see as play, but really is just entertainment.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's certainly a time for it, but there seems to be so many children now that we are, computer games and gaming seems to be on the rise, with the can be connected around the world and doing it with people all over. But to bring children back into nature and to the unstructured free play is quite a thing to be sort of conscious of and be thinking about. And children sort of nowadays, they can be scheduled for much of their time as well. So they might go from school to an after-school clubs at weekends, and that does leave little time for sort of unstructured free play. And maybe parents feel that this is best for the child because it helps them, have the opportunities to get ahead in life. But what do you think our current culture sort of has, what effect do you think it maybe has on parents and families?
Well, I think that, I think there's a time and place for structure. But I think that when your children are young, I think there's certain, it's like a shell of structure that we all need. We all need to bathe. We all need to brush our teeth, and it's really helpful for everybody to be bathing at the same time and brushing their teeth at the same time, because you don't got all day to say, hey, did you brush your teeth today? I mean, so there are different things that are really beneficial for families when we talk about structure, and so we need those things sort of, happening. And you learn this as you go. Like, I mean, we used to stay up way too late reading, and I thought, like, so what? Like, my kids were homeschooled and we're good, and we're just like read. And they're like, Mom, one more chapter, and we just like fall asleep in my bed, and it was like the most beautiful thing ever. And then, looking back, I think we probably should have gone to bed earlier, because it wasn't like the best habit is to stay up that late. And then, but things changed. And when they got older, they needed to get up earlier because, a couple of them went to high school. And so they needed to, and so when that change needed to happen, it could, and they could decide when and where and if and how. And, so it actually was a good transition. So at the time we didn't need that. Like, we didn't need to have that kind of structure to our play, I guess, or to our creative time. We just let it happen for as long as it needed to happen. And I actually really think that if possible, and it's very ideal, it's idealistic, for sure. But, if we can, like, my whole philosophy when I was, raising my children when they were young was that I didn't want to interrupt that process, because it was so important and it was so joyful, and I didn't want to go, well, we have to do math now, and they were like in the middle of a project, they were painting something because if you think about it, if you are painting something, or you're dancing, or you're singing, or you're playing the piano, or you're working on your car, or you're, you know, even if you're mowing the lawn, you're gardening, you're enjoying doing something that you're doing, you're building something. Do you really want someone to come in and say, you got to stop now? No.
No.
I don't need to stop now. I need to keep going until I feel that I'm done. And then if you're a writer, if you're an artist, if you're in the middle of something that you're inspired to create, or if you're in the middle of something that you're really having fun doing, like this is so fun, I'm just playing on the beach and whatever. We should never be interrupted unless there's an emergency, or if we really have to do it. Like, okay, we have an appointment, I'm sorry, I can't change it. I can't, we can't just do that, unplug all the time. But if it's something arbitrary, where we don't really need to do that right now, we could do it later. I just think, especially with the young ones, to just let them play, and the unstructured play too, right? Like, sometimes we structure our play time because, play dates and people get together at a certain time, because we have to, organize schedules, and people have lives. And yes, we have that for sure. But then it's like that balance, I guess, like with anything, and having the balance between the schedule and, what we really actually need to do. I mean, it's, not realistic to be able to just say whatever to every single day. But I think that there definitely needs to be a lot of space for that, a lot. And and outside of things that are also important, like I really respect organized sports. I think my kids got a ton out of them. And a couple are still playing because they're young enough to be in those younger leagues or whatever that are still like organized by their parents or whatever. But those are really actually very important. And I also think individualized sports are important. I think, music lessons and going, and if you're deciding to go to school, I think that's important for a lot of families. And I think a lot of kids get a lot out of for all these different things, but also, again, making sure there's space, so what can a family handle as far as scheduling goes? If your kids are not happy and you're finding that they don't have any space, something's got to go. Something that's not important has to go, just to have that space, because they really need that, even if they don't know it, because often we don't even know it. They don't know it, because we're so locked into this do in our culture. We have to be doing something all the time. Are you kids doing this? We worry and we say, are they going to have a good future? You know what? If they play, if they're creative, they're joyful, if they are in nature, if they meditate, if they reflect on their life, if they know what they want, what they need to do to get it, if they have self-respect, respect for other people, if they have like a spark for life and passion, they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine, even if they didn't take piano lessons, even if they didn't, like have it, you kind of mold and create this whole perfect existence for them, they will be fine. So I think that that's part of the ease of your children's development is in these areas. That's when it becomes like a little bit easier to let them just grow.
Absolutely. And to help them build resilience, because that's resilience is so important for them to be able to have, so that they can bounce back from life and they can get up and carry on. And without any space to do that, they don't have the opportunity to be able to connect inward and sort of find out who they are for themselves, rather than perhaps being scheduled down a road where they feel they're not really getting that time to get to know themselves and to play and to develop for who they are. So yeah, absolutely. And I think in terms of sort of having this structure, we also know there are a growing number of people of adolescents and teenagers who are having sort of anxiety, depression issues, perhaps perfectionism, and stress. So do you think maybe our culture of do and get to the next thing and oh, you should be doing this, do you think that has got anything to do with all of these conditions sort of coming out now?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's obviously not the only thing, right? Like, there are other things that I'm going to be talking about actually with the TRIA branch about, depression and anxiety and other mood disorders and issues like that. But it's definitely part of the picture, and it's a huge part actually of the picture, because the do society and that like whole ignoring these sort of essential aspects that we're talking about here that kind of leads to all kind, like, you know, the physical stuff as well, you know, and vice versa, actually. But I think that, you know, again, you know, what is depression? What is anxiety? You know, there's this biochemical aspect to it that we must not ignore. But there's also that aspect of the self, you know, who am I? Why am I here? Why do I matter? Nobody cares about me. I don't love myself. Nobody loves me. Disconnect. So when we're talking about nature, when we're talking about play, we're talking about creativity, we're talking about meditation, we're talking about connection, right? But what people often will say when they're depressed or anxious, I mean, I've never said someone who's depressed feel connected to anything, because they're feeling like, you know, it's like this feeling of like, I'm disconnected from myself, I'm disconnected from other people, I'm disconnected from my purpose, from my joy, from my life, my desire, my motivation, all of these things, there's this disconnect. And so, so it's these things will reconnect a child or a teenager who is feeling these feelings. And again, you know, like, it's not only this, but this is a huge part, you know, a huge part of it. So yeah, I think that, you know, when we have a child who is anxious and depressed, you know, this is something we need to really focus on, and finding something for them, or not, helping them to find those connections again, right? Through these methods that we've been talking about, helping them to be reconnected with nature. Go with them places, or, you know, schedule less, you know, even though it seems like they need to fill their time because they're moping around depressed. Well, maybe they actually need more space and maybe more time for themselves, or maybe with you, you know, because I think a lot of times if you are a parent that child likes to be around, and not every parent and child has a good relationship. Sometimes they're difficult, and that happens lots, and there's no fault here. It's sometimes people clash, and they're in a space where they're really working through some stuff. But if they're, you know, but maybe then, you know, we could go and do something that they want to do, that they're feeling like called to do. And sometimes some of these kids don't even know what that is. Sometimes they're so, you know, disconnected from that part of themselves that they need a suggestion. They need a peer to say, hey, let's go do this. Or they need a parent or a cousin or, you know, a sibling, somebody in their life that can actually, you know, make suggestions and do it with them, you know. And so, and then, you know, a way of thinking, you know, always examining, you know, what they're thinking, not just examining, but being aware, you know, of it's in their heart, you know, what they want to say to you. And all this stuff, again, needs space. And then playing, like, okay, who wants to feel all the time, right? Like, you're already depressed, and then you got homework to do, and you got chores, and you got this. They want to play. Like, everybody needs to feel good. And those teenagers need to play as much as the little kids. And so do we, by the way. Get a ball, go outside. Right? Get a ball and go outside. Even if you got this teenager, 17-year-old, and you're thinking, wow, that kid is just like doesn't even want to be around me. Suggest it. You never know. Or you go to where they like to be, an old place that you used to go as a family, maybe. Like, you revisit that, you reinstate those things you did when they were younger, because we can tend to lose that. Us adults lose it all the time. And I'm sure everybody listening can remember a place that they really loved when they were young, and be like, I haven't been there forever. And I remember what that was like. Yeah. And one thing I don't actually miss is hanging on the monkey bars, because it hurts now because I'm too big. But like, other than that, I'm pretty good. So no, but you know, like, though, because like, the challenge is great, you know, as long as it's a really good thing and it doesn't make you sad because you don't have it at all anymore, you know. But I mean, these things that keep us feeling like alive and connected, they are really beneficial for kids who have anxiety and depression, because part of that reason that they're feeling, you know, anxious and depressed is the disconnect.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you have any sort of top tips for parents to be able to bring more play into their families' lives? Anything?
Yeah, like some of the things I was just saying. And also, I think there are quite a few things, and I think people just need to be really creative, because some families are very, musically oriented. So they might have fun, jamming downstairs, with all their different instruments. We used to do that a lot. We weren't really good at it, but, like all the kids would just be down there with their friends and they'd be like playing, and they had like a band and, just like I have videotapes and we just actually watch that sometimes just for kicks. Like, so yeah, watching, like videos of when everybody was younger and or listening to things we recorded before. Going like just doing things that your family actually really likes, so some people are really artsy, some people are really like, we used to go to plays quite a lot, go dancing, karaoke, whatever, like do a karaoke party in the living room. We did that at New Year's. And I probably like totally embarrassed my kids, my teenagers, because they had to come, like one of them had a couple friends over, and I'm like, I can't stop. I was like singing my head off. My daughter's like, you sing really loud. I'm like, I know, I can't help it.
Oh.
But but it's like, spreading joy to them, because when we are feeling like really down as well, it's hard to help everybody else, right? So feeding that within ourselves, I think, is really, really important. And taking that time, it's selfish. No, I mean, what's selfish? Like I think we should be happy. I think that's a good thing. Why would we be, selfish because we want to have a good life? Like, what are we here to like sacrifice our lives because our young are born? Like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I mean, if your kids see someone who's happy, engaged, creative, meditative, cognizant, mindful, whatever, grateful. I mean, if they see that and they feel that, like a rising tide lifts all boats, it just does. And so with taking care of that part, those parts of ourselves as well, then we actually want to go play. Then we're curious too. Then we're like, hey, let's go do this, or looking something up and going, we should go on this trip. Even if you can't afford to go fly somewhere, you can certainly, walk a few blocks, or, take a drive down, half an hour away just to get out of the city limits. Like, and it's different when the kids are younger and older, and the stuff you do is going to be different. And sometimes even, but I think like the connection part is really important. And so, like there's so many things, some people are a little bit more like science minded. Some are more artsy. Some are more, they like to do things that are, I don't know, just different than me. I'm just trying to brainstorm for you here, Kirstie, but the sky's the limit, really. It's fun, right? Is it fun?
Yeah,
and you might sort of drag somebody just at first. You might be like, come on, let's just try it. And then they'll go, and then we'll see how it goes. And then if you like it, you go again. And if you don't, well, you had an experience. And then you what? That sucked. Yeah. That really sucked. And I was freezing and it rained, and but then you're kind of like, everybody experienced that together, that suckiness of it all, So I mean, just go and do it. I mean, it's just doing it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we love to just put the music up and dance around the kitchen with our little ones. They love dancing there. So we have great fun doing that. So yeah, and sort of, what's in modern day life, do you think there are, so in the sort of the problems that we have with modern day life, do you think it's that we are going back to sort of thinking about meditation? What do you have to say about meditation? How do you think how that can benefit children and families?
Oh yeah, meditation is huge, and gratitude. I'm gonna sort of like throw them, mindfulness, meditation, gratitude. I want those like sort of like in a clump. Because like meditation, people sort of think of it as like, you're just kind of like on a mountaintop, or you're like, in this perfectly quiet place, and you're, sitting there with your eyes closed, and it's an hour long, and, it's this perfect practice, right? And it's not really that way. I mean, it can be. Some people really are very dedicated people to their meditative practice, and, they really focus on, certain aspects of what they're trying to heal or to improve, right? And, so I totally respect that. People heal their bodies of really huge disease. I mean, if anybody listened to Joe Dispenza, that man was he was amazing. He had a broken back. He got hit by a car when he was on a bike, and that car was going 60. Like he was broken. And so he healed his body with his mind, and he teaches people to do that. I mean, there are people who do this stuff all the time. And there are people who, but when we're talking about families, we're talking about children, we're talking about teenagers. And most of the time, we're not able to do that. And sometimes we don't want to. I mean, I love that people can do this, but I don't need to do that. I don't need to meditate for 4 hours a day because I have a broken back. I'm in a different place in my life. I need to meditate because I'm a busy mom with business and a, practice, and I got a lot of stuff I want to do in this world. And I need to keep my poop in a group. Right? I need to keep myself together. And I want to. It's not just because I better do this because I have something I need to do. No, I better take care of myself because I need this vehicle called a body to get me to where I want to go. No, I want to do it because I want to, because it feels good, because it feels good. It feels, I want to live in this space. I want to experience my life from this perspective, from this way of feeling. This is how I want to experience my life. So I think that kids really need to learn that early. And I don't mean as like a lesson. We sit them down, we say, you need to learn how to meditate, and this is how. No, because when they're from the get-go, or from even if you're just starting this, you're sort of like, you're doing it and as a practice, right? So there's this meditative practice. You sit down, be 5 minutes to an hour to 2 hours to 4 hours, whatever you want to do. It could be any amount of time during the day. It could be every day. It could be every second day. It could be once a week. But it's like there's this aspect of meditation that's actually a practice, right? So you actually dedicate a specific amount of time to do it. Like I said, it could be 5 minutes. And so there are many, many 5-minute meditations that you can actually like listen to on YouTube, like just to see, check it out and see. There's many, many different kinds. So many, you might like someone's voice. You might not like this other person's voice. You might like their imagery that they give. There could be guided meditations. It could be just like music sound. It could be healing sounds, like there are frequencies that are very healing to the body. The sky is the limit. There's so many ways into meditation that you can actually use for a practice. Now that's where, again, you set aside your time and you do it. And you can teach children to do this, teenagers to do this, yourself to do this. You just need to find, like the ones that you like and the amount of time that you are willing or able to spend. But any amount of time is better than nothing. And even the shortest meditations can be hugely powerful. Like, you will see, if people listening have not done this practice before, you will see it change. You will see your life change. You guaranteed if you do this. And so with children, a 5-minute before bed, or even when you get up, or whatever time, usually that's sort of like the settle down time. Like when you get up, it's kind of mayhem sometimes, but sometimes it's really good to set an intention when you wake up, right? Like, sometimes this is the meditation. You wake up, before you close your eyes, you've got your eyes closed still. And you say to yourself, I'm grateful for XYZ. I'm alive and breathing. Holy, the sun is shining in my window. Some kind of, something to be grateful for. And you will set yourself up for that day. So if your children, learn to do that, so easy. Even if you go in, and like maybe you're the alarm clock. Sometimes we are for our children, and we'll say you can suggest something like that, or if their kids are co-sleeping, you can. That's the first thing you say in the morning is like an intent of gratitude, right? Just something to set that your mind to and heart in that space to kind of go through the day experiencing that from that place that I was talking about. So I think that teenagers can learn to do this. I mean, especially in relation to stress, there's a lot of stress on kids nowadays. Oh man, it's just like, we didn't even talk really enough, like at all, about the stressors out in the world that our kids are facing. And I think that meditation will save them really from the effects, the horrible effects of stress. I see kids that are like so many kids are going, I'm so stressed. And I literally like 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds, and then those teenagers will, for sure. Like, I mean, the kids that aren't stressed, it's like, really? There's somebody who's not stressed in this room. Why the hell are they so stressed out? They're going to high school. They're going to, there's a lot of junk food, and there's a lot of junk energy, and there's a lot of junk, media, and there's a lot of junk, environment as far as like chemicals and molds and toxins, and there's a lot of stuff they need to deal with, and the information that's coming at them at the speed that it's coming at them, like it's just phenomenal. And when you actually, if you're like a person who can really feel energy, And if you just kind of stop for a second and you're like, think about like all the stuff you have to do that day, all the stuff that you have to deal with, all the stuff that you're thinking about, all the stuff that you need to think about, all the input and stimulation and, you know, things you have to worry about. That stuff, like if you kind of like sit and go, holy cow, like this is incredible, the amount of stuff that these kids have to sort all the time. So, yeah, so meditation helps them to be in the now. So that's what meditation is really does. And it teaches you to be in the now. And what it does is it creates a whole cascade, a new cascade of those parasympathetic hormones and neurochemicals, the chill, the rest, the digest, the creative, the play, like the leaving space, right? And that is where we want our kids to learn how to get there. We need them to learn how to self-regulate, to be able to understand where something is not important or not. It's important, but it's not really. You don't need to get stressed about it. You can say, this is important and I really need to get this done, but still be in a state where you have clarity. Because if you're stressed, those kids aren't thinking, they're not able to do their homework. They're not going to be able to do any of the stuff that you feel as a parent is important for them to do for their future, for whatever, purposes that you really, reasons that you want them to be clear and well and, all that stuff. They're not going to be able to do that because of the stress. So meditation, I think, should be taught in every school. And I saw something that every household, first and foremost, not up to the schools to teach our kids this, but I think that the amount of time that they're in a school, most kids, I think that they need to be doing that while they're there because they're there all day. That's where they spend a lot of their time. Yeah. But first and foremost in the family. And, even if a child has learned that in the family, they can do this just in class, just for a moment, center themselves. Nobody's going to even know. They think they're sleeping or something. But I mean, or they can take a break and they can go outside for a minute. They can go to the bathroom just to gather themselves. But it's really about awareness and your kids understanding what stress is, how to deal with it. Not deal with it. I don't want to say that. Transcend it, maybe, is the word I want to say. So, okay. So you've got this meditative practice. There was something else I was going to mention about that. But anyway, so yeah, I think that in the school, in the home, so there's this practice. But there's also not just sitting down and actually doing something because you're training your brain, right? When you're meditating, you're actually, like I said, changing neurochemicals, changing hormones that are actually, creating all of these feelings, right? And so, responses in the body, but you're also lengthening the telomeres on they're actually the DNA, the protective caps on the DNA. So you're lengthening your life. You're lengthening your life when you are right. Crazy. So you're also reducing brain inflammation. There are many studies on the benefits that if you want to get into the science, it's not just how you feel and then actually there is hardcore science that's been gathered for decades about meditation, and it's very, very everybody knows this. Everybody knows this now. It's not fringe. It's not weird. It's not just for the woo-woos or the hippies or the yogis, right? I mean, I love yoga, love hippies. I'm probably both, but but you don't need to be in that space either. You can do those sorts of meditations that are, more along the lines of Eastern philosophy, or you can do the ones that are really sciencey, the ones that are actually designed to train and prune the brain and to, and those ones are called neural sculpting, right? So you're sculpting the brain. You're actually supercharging the brain, right? Because you're not in this ooga booga. There's no human growth or getting to the next level of greatness when you're in the ooga booga state, when you're super stressed all the time. You're just in survival mode. Survive. You're not excelling in any way. So our kids need to be able to be in that rest and digest, parasympathetic for sure. And so and then so there's this so we've got John Kabat-Zinn talks about this a lot. John Kabat-Zinn. about, he's written like huge fat books about, about meditation, if anybody's interested in learning more about that, but tons and tons of people. And then I just want to say one more thing about that, because I know I've been talking for like 400 hours monologue, but sorry, Kirstie, but I just want to say that there was like, okay, so we've got the practice of meditation. We've got the science behind it. We understand how important that is. But also there's this like this practice of mindfulness that happens all day. And it's like incorporating that in the way you are, the way you think, the way you view the world. And so it's this whole concept of responding and not reacting. So if we're reacting all over the place, meditation teaches us to respond. It teaches us to observe, to slow, to, well, this is now, is this really, something to panic about? Is this life or death? Because we are logical beings. We can actually, think different thoughts and create a different chemical, cascade in our bodies. We can do that. We can do that with our minds, right? So, and we don't want to be, this is like a yogic sort of, way of looking at things, but, rather than being in the past, because we can't change that, right? We can learn from it. Oh, I'm observing that, but I'm not going to be like, oh, I did this and it was just, oh my God, like guilt and like those are useless to us. We really just need to learn from it and move on. So never living in the past. And then the future, well, we don't know what that's going to be. We can have goals. We can say, I would like that. I think that would be really good. But we, not expectations. I mean, we have outcomes. I mean, being connected to a certain outcome. I mean, I think that goals are so, like for our children, let's say, and we want them to be happy and healthy. Well, that's a goal, but there are many different ways to get there. So, and we just have to be able to let go in some way to let things happen, right? And because our fear can really overrun our actions and our worry, right? And I'm telling you, I've done my fair share of worry. I've done my fair share of worry, but I think that returning to that space, because it doesn't help anybody to be worried, to be like, it doesn't. I mean, we can acknowledge that and say, okay, I'm worried. Okay, what am I gonna shift into here to be able to be clear, to be present, to be joyful, to be, all of those things that we want to be in life, even if we're dealing with a chronic illness, even if we have a big challenge. And that's when those practices come in even more, not handy, but may become more essential, is to have that daily check in yourself, and I think gratitude is also a huge part of that. Sometimes when our kids aren't really well, we're not feeling all that grateful some days. And sometimes we are, though. Like, actually, like, I mean, sometimes we're even more grateful. Some people who have kids who have lots of challenges actually are just grateful for the small things that the rest of us can take it for granted, right? So it's like, it could be one way or the other. We could be like, wow, this sucks, it's hard, like, I can't see anything good about this. I can't see anything good about my child having pandas. There's nothing good about this. But what is there? Always trying to find something. We're alive. We have resources. That child smiled today. Like, I'm going to revel in that, and I'm going to take that piece and go with it, right? And then also, again, on the flip side, sometimes we're even more grateful when we have challenges, like, again, like my child smiled today. I'm like, that child is like, got in trouble at school because, they were like talking in class and they never used to talk, like, you could revel in these things that just like, nobody else would be happy. But I'm like, I remember Heather Kormacher, she's a speaker for the summit and also a fellow student. And she was like, she said she remembered having to like wash laundry was like a triumph because her son was bathing and he was changing his clothes and it was just like, yes, I get to do the laundry, right? And then so the rest of us remembering to be grateful for all of it, like, not all of it, but like the stuff that we don't really pay attention to. So I think meditation, mindfulness, gratitude are huge in that healing process. Huge. Not only healing process, but to keep us healthy.
Absolutely. Because in terms of sort of depression, that can be that we're living in the past or we're looking back at the past, and anxiety can be that we're looking into the future and projecting our fear into the future. So the meditation brings us back to the present to try and help, regulate our thought processes that we're not living, you know, too far behind or in front of us. So yeah, absolutely, it helps with so many. So yeah, how do you think an underdevelopment in these areas can contribute to chronic, sort of childhood chronic illness?
Well, just
I suppose the way we're talking about.
Yeah, and I don't want, I mean, I probably shouldn't keep going too much about that because like I said, I've monologued quite a lot, but I just think, underdevelopment in these areas, I think that they just create stress. They just create, if we're not paying attention to these things, we're stressed, we're not happy, because I think these are the things that give us life. This is the stuff of life. You can't forget the stuff of life.
That's right.
Yeah.
So is there any other examples you can give us of how to teach children to be still and encourage their true spirits to shine?
Yeah, give them the opportunity.
Meditation.
Give them the opportunity. Live by example, right? Like, do it with them. Give them space, right? And every child, they have to do chores. Yep, they do. I mean, believe me, I ain't doing all the dishes myself. But I mean, so forget it. But but I think that there's that balance again. Finding balance, helping your children to find balance, recognizing when they're feeling a little off, and being that place where they can come like a touchstone. It's like, I'm a little off, Mom, I need a mental health day. Can I stay home from school? Yep, you can. Or Mom, I need this or that, or keeping those lines of communication open, really listening to them. I think that because when you're listening and you see your child and see who they are and what they need, you're really way more able to help them, like to provide it for them or help them to get it for themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah, I certainly find motherhood a real balancing act. Every day you're going with the flow, you're connecting to them, you're listening to how they're feeling, you're not pushing them at a point, or not pushing them anyway, but you're understanding when they are feeling a bit off, and just letting them heal themselves, feel better, get to that place. So yeah, it really is such a balancing act, isn't it, of every day just working with them rather than working against them, or trying to be hard and fast with your sort of rules of what you think it should be. Just having those sort of lines in the sand where we're ebbing and flowing with the waves of life and how the children are sort of feeling on that day. So yeah, absolutely. And I think those tools all those tools and everything you've spoken about is fantastic, just to really help our children to become, to be and understand and see who they are again. And certainly, like with anything, we need space in nature, needs space to be able to shine and blossom and grow and develop. And it's the same with our children. So thank you, Carla. And are there any ways how do you tap into your inner shine, Carla? Anything just to finish on here that you would like to tell us?
Yeah, I was talking, I love to sing. And I just love it. And I actually am a little shy. Like, I was talking about karaokeing before, and we have like the best family karaoke parties, but I'm actually not the first one to sing. I will sing, but I'm not the first. I'm the first one to dance, but I'm definitely not the first singer, because I get nervous. I don't know why, but I love to sing. We like the girls and my son sings too, actually. And we'll just like crank the music in the car if we're on the way somewhere, or in the house, or like, just belt it out, and musicals and like all kinds of different kinds of music, but just love to sing. And I get actually, singing is actually good for the vagus nerve. We didn't even talk about the vagus nerve. Oh, I wish I would have talked about the vagus nerve, because we have a whole other talk about that, but it stimulates the vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve, talks to the body, and it's very, very important in mental health too. So it stimulates the vagus nerve. And that's actually really good for depression. I mean, most of the time, if you're singing, I'm pretty sure you're not feeling bad. Unless you're singing like, rah, 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 like some kind of like hard metal kind of like, But I mean, really, like if you're singing, usually you're feeling pretty good. Don't just pay attention to that sometime. If you're in a bad mood, put on something you like and enjoy, and you sing. The music itself, I find, is so, like, just music. Even if I'm not singing, play music. I love to play the piano, although I know like 5 songs, but hey, it's fun. So sometimes I'll get on there and I'll just kind of play it, like just walking by and going, I think I'll play this for a little while, and also I write. That's kind of like bad for me and good at the same time, because this is what I do anyway. Like that's work for me, but my work is my joy. That's my play. I get to play when I work. I get to create, and I get to, and actually it's very meditative for me. I get to reflect and understand my world and what am I thinking, and organize my thoughts, and like, I kind of like automatically think as an essay. Like I have this, my introduction, a little bit in the middle there, my, points that I'm going to make, and then I conclude, I just like, that's how I kind of think now. And but I love writing, and I have to write. Like if I feel something, I'll like jump out of the shower and write it down. Like it's one of those things that's just part of me. And that's what I want for everybody. I think that's really important for everybody. Everybody's got that thing, that they would just jump out of the shower to do. If they're like, it's inspired to them, I gotta jump out and make this sculpture, or you better wash off the soap first. I love visual art, but I'm not very good at it. Like I used to make lots of clay, my kids and I would buy this big box of clay and do hand building and stuff. And, but I love nature, all the stuff we're talking about. I mean, I meditate, and again, more so the daily practice of meditation, because I don't have a lot of time that I have devoted at this point in my life. It's not that I don't have the time, but I haven't devoted that amount of time prioritized to have like an hour a day of meditation. I don't do that, but if I have the time during that day, I will. I'll do it. I'll say, you know what, look, I think I need an extra amount of time, but I will definitely do something every day, but it's more so like I'll sit down, but I'll do more so the daily practice, the stop, reflect, and get outside and enjoy, like forest bathe, all that stuff. I love to do that, except for I'm in Saskatchewan in Canada, and it can get really cold. It's really cold and it's super hot in the summer, but we're spring, so it's really good right now. So
perfect.
Yes. But everything, all those things, like I have a bath, so like I tap into that in those still moments, but also like in the frenzy, 'cause I'm kind of high energy. I love to go play with my nieces and nephews. My kids, they're older, like, so we'll get outside and like, we'll go for walks together or play, catch or something like that. But those little guys, I still love to do it. I'll be like, I'll take it. I'm that auntie, right? I'll take you to the park.
Yeah.
I'm that auntie. Well, let's make
fun auntie.
Let's make some pictures. And which is tough though, Kirstie, because now in this day and age, sometimes you have to drag the kids out and then unplug them, and then they're having fun with auntie. But it's not like it was, where it was like automatically, I was just waiting for auntie to come take me to the park. It's tough these days when we've got kids that are very plugged in. So again, listen to those talks about that, because it's really, really important to watch for that. But once we're out and we're going to the bookstore, like that's another thing. I love to read. I love reading. I think I've created a monster in my children, especially with my one daughter, who's like, literally be like, Isabel, and she'll be like nobody can talk to her because she's reading. Like I'm like, you need to go to bed. You just, so I mean, we still need to be out in the world, but reading, I love reading. So those are just a few things I love to do. Thanks for asking. Yeah. How about you? I'm going to ask you, what do you do?
You're welcome. I love, nature. Absolutely have to be out in nature every day, get my vitamin N. I love dancing. I just love music, rhythm and dancing, and being able to creatively express in that way. I love that. Same as you. I love reading. I love playing with the children, being with animals. I love horse riding, being around dogs, dog walking. Lots of things. I love yoga. I love singing. There's lots of things I love that fill me, and I certainly feel that I need those. And when I don't get my walks out in nature, or get my dancing, I can feel, all my meditation and mindfulness, I can feel that impact on my body. And I think certainly with what we're doing at the moment and having young family and, lots going on and trying to, do lots, the mindfulness and meditation is just so important to help just center you and just feel, gather yourself again, take those deep breaths and just think, okay, this is fine. This is all going to work out. I can do it.
Yes.
So yeah, there's going and sitting, going down by the river, sitting under a tree to read your book, and yeah, so love any form of that, and sports and connecting and dancing and being in the group with other girls, and when we're dancing and we're creating that that lovely sort of dance together, and yeah, that fills me up, and talking with like-minded people, doing all of this work is just amazing as well. So
you mentioned like a ton
so many things
totally missed. I love those, and I like that, the like-minded people, the people that fuel your mind, right? The ideas. And like and yoga, I'm actually a yoga instructor because of that, and pursuing that. What you're saying, Kirstie, makes me think like, everybody who finds their inner shine in some way, and we just need to pay attention to that and express it and be able to feed that. If you feel like you need to go dance, you go and find your friends and you go dance somewhere, your kids, or turn it on yourself. Like if you feel you need to do that, do it. Do it. So that's my final thought about that.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you so much. Well, I just want to say thank you so much, Carla, for all your insight and wisdom, and you are truly helping to empower families to change their lives for the better. So thank you so much for putting together this summit and all the work, hundreds of hours that you're putting into it. It's amazing. So just want to say thank you so much. Highly grateful. Thank you. And thank you for giving me the chance to talk to you about this as well. It's been real fun. Pleasure. So thank you, Carla.
Kirstie, you were like I said, you were the perfect person to do this interview, and thanks so much for taking up the challenge and being an interviewer for the Children's Health Summit 4. It was really wonderful to see you again, and I know everybody's going to get a lot out of your wonderful questions. So thanks again, Kirstie. I hope you enjoyed this interview, and be sure to listen to more interviews from this timely and groundbreaking series. If you would like more information, guidance, and support through your family's health journey, and or want to join our growing community of professionally trained family health coaches, please visit us at healthyfamilyformula.com. Together, we can turn the tide for the future health of our children. May you and your families be well.